Okay, so think about this. Every single day, we make a choice that most of us aren't even aware we're making. And that is choosing the very ideas, the concepts, we use to make sense of the world. It sounds small, but this hidden choice, it has a massive impact on our reality.
I mean, really think about it. When you're scrolling through the news or just talking to a friend, are you consciously picking the framework you're using to understand what's going on? Or are you kind of running on a default setting? A setting that maybe someone else chose for you? That's the big question we're going to dig into today. All right, so first up, let's really get a handle on the power of these concepts. The best way to think about them is like lenses. Yeah, lenses that shape how we see everything. Every single idea you use, whether it's something huge like the economy or justice, it's a lens. And just like any lens, it brings certain things into sharp focus while, pushing other things into the background, making them all blurry. And here's the kicker for us today. Thanks to the internet, these lenses can spread like wildfire. A whole new way of looking at the world can literally go viral overnight. And that means the choice of which lens we decide to look through, as individuals and as a whole society, has never ever been more important.
And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. On the one hand, if you pick a concept that's, well, just poorly chosen, one that doesn't really line up with reality, it can cause a ton of damage and confusion. But on the flip side, a well-chosen concept, one that's actually suited to the challenges we're facing, wow, that can be one of the most powerful tools we have.
Okay, so that's the big question, right? How do we pick a good concept? Well, it turns out it all boils down to this fundamental trade-off. It's this constant balancing act between simplicity and accuracy.
You could say that all of our simple models essentially cartoonify reality. I love that word. They're not reality itself, obviously, but they're these simplified, structured versions of it. And you know what? That's totally okay. A cartoon can be super useful, as long as we remember not to mistake the sketch for the real thing. And you can see this trade-off so clearly when you compare two different kinds of models. So take the phrase, "it is what it is." I mean, technically that's 100% accurate, right? Always. But is it useful for making a decision? Not at all. It's useless. Now compare that to a scientific forecast. Is it ever 100% certain? No. It's all about probabilities. But its usefulness for actually doing something? It's huge.
See, that's the whole point. The goal of a good model isn't to be a perfect pixel-for-pixel photograph of reality. That's not it. The goal is for it to have a correlation with reality that's, well, useful. Useful for making decisions, for getting things done, and for getting ready for whatever might be coming down the line.
Okay, so if this is all one big trade-off, how in the world do we measure it? How do we know if our little mental cartoon is actually any good? Well, believe it or not, science gives us a really powerful tool for this, and it all comes down to one single elegant idea: surprise. Yeah, the tool is called surprisal, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a way to actually quantify, to put a number on how surprised a model is when it sees new data. Think about it. If your model is consistently not very surprised by what happens next, that's a fantastic sign. It means your lens, your concept, is lining up really well with the real world. But of course, there's a catch. I mean, there's always a catch, right? To stop us from just building these insanely complex models that can explain anything after it's already happened, science has this clever little rule, a complexity penalty. The idea is really simple. Every single assumption you add to your model, it comes with a cost. So for example, let's say you're tweaking your model and you add just one new little assumption to make it fit the data better. Well, bam, that one assumption instantly adds a point to your complexity penalty. See, science loves the simplest explanation that actually works. It values models that can predict what's going to happen with the fewest possible moving parts. This whole system is what keeps our concepts lean, mean, and powerful. Okay, so this is all really fascinating science, for sure. But what does it have to do with our actual everyday lives? Well, everything. This whole way of thinking is the key to becoming a much more critical observer of the world around you. And this is especially relevant when we're consuming news and information. Think about it. The media, commentators, pretty much everyone in what you could call the information industry, they are constantly making these concept choices for us. And the lenses they decide to use, they dramatically shape how we end up interpreting events. As humans, we have this built-in preference. We really like to see the world as a story about individual people, or as one writer so brilliantly put it, as an interaction between skin-bound metazoans. It's a simple story, it's compelling.
But so often the real thing driving events is way more complex. It's about these massive interactions between big systems, environments, gene pools, idea sets, you name it. But the news? It often defaults back to that much simpler, person-focused cartoon. And this, right here, gets to the absolute heart of it all. See, science, or even just critical thinking, isn't really about consensus among experts or just agreeing with what you're told. Instead, it's about this ongoing, evolving process of checking the correlation between the idea sets we're using and the world we actually live in.
And here's the crucial point. You don't need to be a scientist running surprisal calculations to use this. Not at all. The single most powerful takeaway here is just awareness. Simply being aware that a choice of concepts is being made, whether it's by a reporter, a politician, or even by you. That awareness is the first giant step toward becoming a truly critical observer.
So, I want to leave you with this question to chew on. As you go about your day-to-day, what is the most important lens you're using to understand everything? And maybe even more importantly, how well is that lens actually matching up with the world you're experiencing?